Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I live another day again up to the 14th day of Muharram 1442. And of course, it's the 2nd of September 2020. We are still in the middle of the battle of the century, battle with COVID-19, and we keep ourselves safe. I keep myself safe here. Had my swim this morning, come back home and not leaving home until there's some necessary reason to do so. Okay, nice to see you back here in this channel. However, as usual, please, I have to remind especially our fellow brothers and sisters, Muslims uh, across the globe, especially during Friday, and we are about to perform the Friday prayer, and the Khatib is beginning to recite the khutbah. Please shut down your handphone and turn off my video, okay, and listen to what the Khatib got to say. And also, when you are in class, your lecturer is teaching, or the scholar is preaching, or you're driving, and other matters that you're occupied with which are important, please refrain from yourself from watching my video. Now, today I begin by thanking new subscribers for the day. I appreciate your presence. I'm honored to have you in the group, and as always, I I'm letting you know I do not retain any copyright of my work. This video is free for all. You can use it at any time except that khutbah. Also use it at any time to train your own people, or you can turn it on during a meeting so that your colleagues and your bosses are able to hear a third party explaining matters related to the environmental law, environmental sciences, environmental management, to facilitate your understanding and perhaps decision making in the office. Okay, today we are uh, we are going to look at the law again in the next regulation, but this time is about the DOE, or Department of Environment, surprise visit on one particular day, probably in the morning, 9 to 10 a.m. in the morning, or any time of the day. Suddenly you saw a few four-wheel drive vehicles with a door displaying the logo of the hibiscus flower, and it's stated there Jabatan Alam Sekitar, maybe two or three X-Trails or four-wheel drives or a car. What do you do? Do you wait and let them in gracefully, or you run for your life? Or you inform your guardhouse, hey, God, could you please hold them up at least a few more minutes? And meanwhile, you start to call the competent person. Hey, make sure the IETS competent person, make sure it's all in order. The scrubber competent person, the dust collector competent person, is everything okay? We have not been running that dust collector. Can you turn it on now? For example. Now I'm just being outrageous. I don't think you are in that clan. Okay. Now this is an important thing for us to understand, because apparently the law, the law do stipulate the fact that the DOE and their officers, the Director General and their officers of the department of the ministry, is being issued a power under Malaysian legislation to examine premises. Now, the first power that maybe we would like to look at an important clause is to look at the main act first. All right. And over here, just let me recite the act for a while. Section 37A, subclause 1. The Director General or any officer duly authorized in writing by him shall have all the powers necessary to carry out an investigation under this Act. Now, as you know, DOE has got what they call a list or an inventory of all the industrial and other activities which is subscribing to the law in their inventory list. Yeah. So they have to ensure compliance. And as you know, they are actually an enforcement body working for the government to ensure that all of us are complying to all the stipulated regulations under the legislations called Environmental Quality Act 1974, which is under Malaysian Constitution. So they have been in power. So, and subclause 2 of section 37A, in any case relating to the commission of an offense under this act, the Director General or any officer duly authorized in writing by him carrying out an investigation may exercise all or any of the powers in relation to police investigation in seizable cases given by the Criminal Procedure Code. It says that's the Penal Code, Act 597. What does it mean? If, for example, there is a complaint by your neighbor that they saw some excessive dust coming out of the chimney of your, say, dust collector, and your neighbor inform DOE and even take a picture using WhatsApp, for example. Right? DOE has all the means under the law to conduct an immediate investigation, and within minutes they would arrive in front of your gate just adjacent to the guardhouse, and they will present themselves by showing the authority card that they are actually DOE officials. And at that point, we are obliged not to delay them. If we delay them, they can take us under this law that we are trying to deter what you call civil servants from exercising their duty. That's another offense already, besides the Clean Air Regulation. So be careful with all this. And I would like to show you this regulation 19. The moment that they are inside the factory, inside our premise, we let them in. What do? Once DOE is inside the premise, what do? Make a flash mob? Or get your reception personnel and all the housekeeping personnel to do aero dance presentation? No. Okay. Now, look, one thing I need to implore to everyone who are in the industrial sector or manufacturing processes or any other activities which is related to the release of so-called environmental aspects which are subscribing to the environmental law. Listen to this. Complying to all the standards stipulated under the law, the environmental law of Malaysia, is our responsibility, and the compliance level is at all time, not just in the daytime, but not complying in the nighttime. No. It's at all time our emission from the stack of our dust collector or from the stack of our scrubber, the emission of exhaust from the exhaust pipes of our diesel powered engines or gensets. All these are supposed to be emitted within the allowable limits of the law at all time. It's not seasonal, okay? It's not like, okay, this is Hari Raya Puasa or Chinese New Year or Deepavali or Christmas holidays. We can release. No, it doesn't work that way, okay? Because why? We have to have a clear conscience. The moment we release all these air impurities from whatever activities, God knows what it contains. It could be dioxin up to the SOx NOx. It could be volatile organic carbon. They are all released into the atmosphere and shall travel from place to place. We might be having a holiday somewhere in Langkawi, and our plant is in Selangor. Who knows? South southeasterly wind but might be blowing from Selangor, and there we are landed. It gets suspended and landed in Langkawi. We still had it. Okay, so all these are meteorological factors. Now coming back to the root is that we have to comply at all time, and when the DOE comes to inspect, here you are. Who shall attend to them? Sorry, it's not supposed to be red anyway. Yeah, I got a duster here. Okay, good. Look, the owner or the occupier of the premise. Okay, the owner could be the landlord, and never mind, yes, or the company directors. To be honest with you, as far as this is concerned, the person who hold all responsibility in environmental compliance, especially to this law, are the top management. You are accountable and responsible to ensure the compliance to this law from all your related activities. Although you have delegated the function to a set of people, today we call them perhaps competent person for air pollution devices, air pollution equipment, air pollution control equipment. You may have competent person to do the work, but they represent you to take up the responsibility to do the work. Compliance or no compliance, the end, the root, all right, of the knob will be on top management, because you are the decision makers, and it is in the interest of the authorities to have copies of updated SSM documents related to company registration and who owns what. It's in their file. Okay, so please be careful that when you are a decision maker, top management in the company, you are accountable to all this, despite the fact that you have delegated those environmental functions to competent person. They will perform the work because they are trained to do so. They know the law, but they are your subordinate. They don't make decision unless you allow them to in writing. All right, so please remember this. Now, okay, in normal circumstances, when everything is running, usually the guard house would inform the HR or perhaps the factory manager, whoever in the factory, perhaps the reception, then it will be connected to the PIC. Literally for that particular day, and eventually it boils down to competent person. As if these are officials who are inspecting dust collectors or CEMS equipment or all the sources of air pollutants from the activities in the factory, they are usually accompanied. And our responsibility is to provide them with what is that? Reasonable assistance. Meaning, number one, look, labor, workforce, so that the DOE officer is being facilitated while doing their work. For instance, now, it's not written here, but it includes, okay? First thing, if you see government officials or any other officials from other departments as well, including that of DOE, please ensure safety. First thing, take a look at what sort of PPE DOE is wearing. If you know it is not good enough, then you got to provide them. You are obliged to provide them with the appropriate PPE, mask, helmet, or whatever, goggles, boots, aprons, jackets, whatever, which is suitable and enable to keep their safety while they are doing inspection in your factory. PPE, remember that. All right, and you got to have a person who knows your process very well to assist the DOE officials. Then make sure that all this personnel has got good communication skill. You understand what I'm saying? Because you, as a top management, you could be a graduate in chartered accounting who has undergone a few semesters of management subjects, like what? Some of you might have done MBA even, all right? And you do learn, you have learned about human behavioral sciences, including communication. Therefore, it is important for factories to ensure that those competent person that you have sent for competency not only are competent about managing the dust collector, scrubber, etc., but also have a good communication interpersonal skills. They are going to face DOE officials who comes to your place to do so-called inspection or investigation to look into the level of compliance of your air pollution management. So if you send a labor or a person or a competent person or another or any personnel that cannot communicate well and say the wrong thing at all time, what do you think would infer from that? Think about it. Invest a little bit in training. Interpersonal skills is very important. It is shortcoming today the way I see it. All right, and communication skill. Get them to learn languages. Never mind if they are not speaking Malay well. Get them Bahasa Malaysia tuition. if they are not well versed in some parts of some English language, then send them for English communication skills. These are all capital investment. Companies, you don't lose anything, you gain, because with good communication, you can avoid miscommunication. And as you already know, miscommunication can be expensive. Got it? All right, so I don't have to repeat that. Next thing is ensure you got the right equipment to facilitate DOE officials. All right, the right equipment. Maybe for if you are talking about the inspection and they want to inspect your chimney, make sure you got a monkey ladder over there, platform, a decent ladder for the personnel to climb, and make sure the ladder is good, not rusted at the edges. Okay, and wire harness. Okay, and all these are safety. Actually, it boils down to safety preparedness. So when you got visitors, especially from the government sector, safety is still first. Okay, despite the fact that they are running for, they are actually enforcing the environmental law, safety is always first. All right, then the right equipment, for example, if they want to do inspection of the gases that enter the scrubber, for example, they may able to sample some intake inlet. There is a cap that maybe they want to use litmus paper to check for the pH level of the gas that comes in. They might want to check because you may have a wet scrubber, but the wet scrubber is water, and they want to ensure that the pH of gases is as per design. They might need some pH, so get hold of pH meter, portable pH meter with probe long enough, and the battery is with power. All right, and make sure you got all this equipment in the hands of a good person. Usually it's best to keep it with your competent person. So when competent person, you hear that DOE is already at the front door, get hold of this equipment, bring it with you in the bag, get ready, do not waste time. All right, and when you are wasting time, you can cause some other kinds of hormone to be developed while the visit. All right, and also instrumentations. Okay, and maybe a laptop, maybe some kind of walkie-talkie, maybe you know other communication device or whatever is needed by that particular DOE group of officers, or maybe an officer. So I think that is what you need to do. And during the inspection, you got to be there with them. Okay, if I'm you, the competent person, you got to make sure uh, what is being said by the DOE. All right, and if you have made a mistake, honestly, I'm telling you, admit it. For example, maybe looking at CMS, you know that there is a wire which is being eaten, being bitten by, say, rodents, and it is already exposed. So you got to tell DOE, boss, I'm sorry that this wire is already kaput. It is still sensing electrical impulses, but we are about to change it. Just admit it, because if any parts of our air pollution control equipment is not in order, we are already vulnerable to action, because we got to keep all our equipment in first class order, in working condition, functional condition, no defects. That's the meaning of the law. Okay, so I believe that's about it as far as rendering DOE officials as they come to visit our factory. And usually these officers, they wouldn't even settle for mineral water. My feeling is best for industries to work hand in hand with DOE officials, of course, not amounting to conflict. okay, conflict of interest, but it it is necessary to build a communication. You need to communicate with the DOE, and DOE officers, please communicate. All right. If they ask you questions about the law, you are obliged to surface them with the understanding. And for a factory operators, factory personnel, please reserve some respect to this investigating officer. They are carrying out a heavy duty. Okay, it's a task which is not so pleasant, and they have got to inspect your premise, and they are exposed to all types of pollution that you may have in the operational premise or room or area or whatsoever. So have some empathy on that. Okay, so I believe that is adequate for this video. I thank you for your attention again, and for all subscribers. I and subscribers and all viewers, I wish all of you blessings from the Almighty. Saya doakan keselamatan, kesejahteraan, kebahagiaan, dan kejayaan kehidupan di dunia dan di akhirat untuk semua, especially yang support saya, yang subscribe channel ini dan menggunakan ilmu ini ke arah yang bermanfaat. So thank you for your attention again. Till we meet in the next video, I wish everybody Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.